Hello everybody once again. If you don't know, my name is Andrew. I represent Galileosky technical support team, and today I will be your host for the today's webinar dedicated to our new integrations, new features with our Galileosky trackers. So it's the last webinar this year, so we decided to finish the year with this what we have done recently and what new devices have been integrated and what new features have been added to the trackers. Next webinar will be only next year. So thank you all who came or who will come soon. And I guess we can start the webinar. So today's plan is to look at what are the current settings for transferring the data from the tachograph, a continental video DTCO to the monitoring software. So according to European standards and European law enforcement, we'll look at use of electric meters in projects and what electric meter have been recently added to our list of integrated devices. What are the possibilities of obtaining data when working with VIMS system on the Caterpillar and other integrations that have been recently added to our list. I remind you that our today's webinar is pretty much as all the others. It's around 40 minutes with questions. The questions will be asked in the end, but you can also ask them in the middle using the questions tab, which is mentioned in the last point. And the recording of today's webinar will be sent to you to the email that you used when you registered to the webinar. The questions tab, again, is in the upper side, so you can access it using this symbol. You can ask questions in chat as well, but it's easier and more convenient to work with separate questions in the questions tab, so please don't be afraid to use it. Now, let's go to the topic of today's webinar. Probably the most complex and the most grand addition that our developers done to our trackers and to its abilities to work with external devices is that we can now obtain DDD files from the Continental Video DTCO 1381 tachograph and receive not just DDD files as we did before, but verified DDD files using the smart cards of the organization. So this is done in accordance with the European AETR agreement about transportation and about the driving rules of and mostly about the rest and work mode, rest and work regime of the drivers. So it implies that the tachograph itself collects all the data containing the mileage, the speed of the vehicle, and the working hours of the driver as accumulated hours as well as hours consequent without rest. Since there are certain European standards of how many hours the driver can rest and can drive, mostly can drive without resting, up to 4 if I'm not mistaken. So up to now we had opportunity to obtain the DDD files from the RS-232 port in the front side of the tachograph, but it was not very clear, and it was not acceptable for the European agreement since they were not verified by the organization smart card. So we added ability to connect to the CAN part in the back of the tachograph and verify the files using our application. I will next show you how to work with it and how to set everything to get it all working. But first, just small details about the integration. It is applicable only for Galileosky base block and 7 trackers that support micro SD cards and have micro SD cards installed inside. The connection interface, as I already mentioned, is CAN bus. So CAN interface, it requires is a logic algorithm, which you can see on the right part is download DDD. And we have similar integrations, as I already mentioned, including Continental Video as well as Atoll and Mercury, but they all support extracting DDD files without any confirmation, without the verification from the organization side. So for that, you will need the tachograph, and of course, you will need a smart card reader that is connected to the PC, where the application that I will show a little bit further will be installed. So step one, of course, is connection of the tracker to the tachograph. You can see that Canage and Canal are used from the C block of the contacts of the tachograph. So this is because that's the part where the DDD can be extracted. Here you can see the schematics of the connection. So it's pretty simple. We connect canal to canal and Canage to Canage. Of course, ground is connected. Step two is we require examiner.com registration for this DDD files extraction. I'm pretty sure that majority of you have already participated in our previous webinar dedicated to examiner. Well, our new service for our new driver application and web service for dispatchers called Examiner. This is our web service that allows to display different widgets for the driver, and the driver can use his mobile device, a tablet or a smartphone based on Android, to look at the current parameters of the vehicle he is driving in real time, not only online using GPRS or Wi-Fi connection or 3G, but also offline using Wi-Fi local APN or Bluetooth. But as well, this web service is also used for sending the verification data of the company, of the organization smart card, to the tracker connected to the tachograph, which is why we need to have a registration if you don't have it yet, and to remember the credentials that you are using to enter the service. When we set the tracker, we need to use, first of all, the user ID we registered in the Examiner. In the user ID field in the settings security tab, we need to connect to Examiner, of course. So as one of the servers, primary or secondary, we set examiner.com with port 32,000. And then look at the our Examiner account and see if the tracker appeared in one of the devices connected to it. Once we see that it is connected, then we can proceed. Of course, it is important that since we are working with the DDD files extraction using EasyLogic algorithm, we should set CAN scanner to work with EasyLogic, which means that you will not be able to read the CAN bus in parallel. When you set the tracker, next step is to load the script as well, which means that you need to use the command script Galileosky/download DDD and wait until the algorithm is installed on the tracker. This is actually the last stage of the setting itself. And step 4, which is final step, you need to install the card application, which will include in one of the next configurator programs. So it will be installed automatically if required, so it will be in the installation package. This is how the application looks like. So it doesn't have that much tabs, it doesn't have that much interface, but it's pretty visible, it's pretty readable. The thing here is that you need to do the following. You need to enter your credentials for the Examiner tool here and press the login button. In that case, you'll get here the status login successful. Actually, all the statuses will be further shown here, so this is where you should look at. We set the download interval in days. By European agreement, it should be not less than 28 days, which is why we chose 28 here as setting, but you can do it more frequently or less frequently as you wish. Although, again, 28 is the maximum amount of days, if I'm not mistaken. You can set email report to be sent to your email based on if there are any extractions of the DDD files. Here you set the schedule. How often do you want to do that? After you log into your Examiner, you press the button Get Devices, and here you will have a list of emails that are in this account. For each, you can tick the device in the checkbox, and then start, when the time comes, it will try to extract DDD files based on the smart card confirmation. If it is successful, then it will show the corresponding message in the troubleshooting. So it's first authentication, then open remote sessions, send upload request, start transfer data, and eventually it will download DDD file to the micro SD card of the tracker. So this is in what format this DDD file arrives. It's day, month, year, hour, minute, second. So 6 parameters, 2 integers each. After we receive the DDD files, if we need to send it to the monitoring software, we can just extract the microSD and copy the files, or use WebDAV synchronization of the files and extract them to the cloud to further resend it to the server if needed. So that's basically what this application does. It is a little bit complex, and we're working to make it a little bit more, user-friendly, but currently it is as it is. And there is high possibility it will stay this way. But still, it was quite a large thing, and many of our clients are already testing it. So if you have urge to work with European tachograph and extract the DDD files verified by the smart card of the organization, you can address our tech support team, and we'll give you the sample of this program to work with. Second integration out of 7 that were featured is that we integrated a new electric meter, Pilot SPM93. So previously we had electric meters, but they were only Russian. So this is the first international 3-phase energy meter or electric meter that you can connect the tracker to using RS-485 interface and the algorithm that you can see in the lower part, Pilot SPM93. Only trackers Galileosky base block and Galileosky 7 can be connected to the electric meter, and you will need firmware 20.10 or higher. The basic functionality of such electric meter is that it records different parameters of the electric chain, of the electric network, the system, the power system, and it records these parameters, these values, and send it to the server. So basically, our tracker in this chain is just a retranslator of data received on the electric meter or counted on the electric meter while sending it to the server for further analysis, investigation, and so on. So basically, it is pretty common, and it is pretty important to use on stationary objects to control the power level of the system itself, different rises or falls of energy levels, and to react accordingly. For example, you can set using EasyLogic different notifications if the levels are reaching higher or lower than certain levels values, and notify the according people who should take measures to work with that situation, or simply try to make some actions autonomously using the outputs of the tracker and using system of relays, for example. Third one is connection of a new information board, which is called SCOM. So we had so far 2 information boards integrated with our trackers. It's Iskra, it's Russian, and IT Line, which is international. This is a new one, but its functionality is very close to the previous 2. except for currently we have integration with internal information board only. So although we are working on complete integration with external boards as well to show the number of the route and the stations, starting and finishing stations, bus stations. So the trackers again are base block and 7. Firmware should be used 18.4 or higher. The boards are connected using RS485 interface as well as Iskra and IT line. And we would need digital display autoinformer lower line ES algorithm to work with that. Basic functionality of such information board is to show different bus stations, the ones that are to be next and the ones that the bus is approaching right now. It is closely connected with the autoinformer notification and autoinformer function as well, because the routes are created in the autoinformer tab of the configurator in the settings section. You set the direction, you set the angle, and you set what audio file to play that is not connected with information board, and what is the name of the station, which will actually be shown on the information board. As well, this board supports showing temperature, internal temperature or external temperature, and current time and date. One of new integrations that we haven't done yet is that we can now work with different keyboards using VIN 26 protocol. So this is RFID keyboards that send can be both a RFID reader and a keyboard, or just keyboard. They send to the tracker signal in a form of VIN 26 protocol signal, sending the code that the person is entering. So it works similarly to the RFID cards, but you don't need a card for that. You can simply set a certain code or a number of codes for access, and compare if the code that you have set is the same as the code received from the reader. The trackers again are only base block and 7 because new trackers are easier to involve in its integration with the new devices, and because the devices 5.0, 5.1 and so on have limited abilities to be connected to new devices. The firmware is 14 or higher for one reader or one keyboard. If you're using two VIN 26 ports are available only from firmware 21 and higher. So the idea here is that we can use any keyboard that has signal length of 250 microseconds or higher. Otherwise, we will not be able to read the signal. It will be too fast for us. And the keyboard itself will transfer the value of the entered code to the monitoring software. The thing that you should pay attention to is that it's only up to the reader itself, to the keyboard itself, how in what format it sends data to the tracker. It can send it directly or in hex format as the code that was entered, or it can add some symbols, or it can modify the code that was entered, and the tracker will have to somehow retranslate it back to what code was entered. So that's just what you should pay attention to. Of course, similar integrations are VIN 26 RFID readers that we already had, and Dallas Touch Memory readers. The connection interface here are discrete analog inputs. For first it's input 0 and input 1, for second input 2 and input 3. Both are data 0 and data 1. And no algorithms are required in this case because it's just integration from firmware. Next, fifth or fourth, I have lost count actually, but next integration here is that we have one more pressure measurement system for our trackers for the tires. It's called TM508 or AirGuard. So for those of you who don't know what is a tire pressure management system, it's a system that helps to control the pressure in the tires, in the wheels of the vehicle, for very simple reasons, because when the pressure is lower than required, than the standard one, it makes the tires go out of order quickly. The lifetime of the tires is lower, so you need to change. And of course, it makes the accidents involved with the wheels more apt to appear, which is why it is pretty important to watch that the pressure is on a normal level. The system consists of three parts. It's the monitor, to which we actually can connect to using RS-232 interface and Galileosky EasyLogic algorithm ATPMS. The sensors, one sensor usually is connected to the tire itself. It can be external sensor that is just rolled on the nipple of the wheel, or there are sensors that are installed inside the wheel. So they are more accurate, but they are harder to install, understandably. And also in this system, we need a repeater that will send the signal from the sensors to the monitor. So a three-part connection. It can be used by any tracker supporting EasyLogic. So here we support it with our older devices as well, with more previous ones, the ones that are off production now. It's 2.5, 2.4, 2.3, 5.0, 5.1 with firmware 230.5 or higher. Also, any version of base block and 7 can be used. Well, of course, if it supports RS-232 interface. So light versions will not do. As for similar integrations, we already had Pressure Pro Pulse, and DPMS 6 line 13. We have a new weight indicator. So we have actually a lot of weight indicators integrated already. It's CI, Tenzo, AWT, Wind Scale, Grain Scale, MiddleMe, Gigistar. Now we have one more. It's called CAS DB1H. Also connected via RS-232 as many other weight indicators. And this one requires EasyLogic algorithm PB scale request. The trackers connected, the trackers supporting this weight indicators are base block and 7.0 only. So again, 5.0 and lower are not supported, and the firmware is 20.10 or higher. The need for this weight indicator is known to those of you who work with freight weighing in the warehouses, in the agricultural services, in transportation and courier services. So any need when you need to weigh different freights, different cargoes, and send this to the server, this is one of the weight indicators that you can use for these purposes. And the last integration that I wanted to tell you about, also quite grand and quite interesting, is that we recently learned how to work with the VIMS system, which is Vital Information Management System, in the Caterpillar trucks. So the connection to VIMS is done using RS-232 and EasyLogic algorithm VIMS parse. Trackers are used Galileosky 7 and base block, firmware 20.6 or higher. We don't have any similar integrations because, well, the closest one is CAN bus, but it's a little bit different, which is why this is a unique integration in its way. So the Caterpillars themselves are pretty complex machines, pretty complex trucks that have a lot of different parameters involved, and a pretty complex system of sensors and retranslators. And connection to VIMS and sending requests to it and obtaining data from VIMS allows to get from the caterpillars information about specific parameters like current effectiveness, and it can warn us about any non-typical situations, accidents, troubles that may in all, control of these parameters will increase the lifetime of the vehicle and reduce the repair costs. Of course, it also decreases the possibility of vehicle malfunction. Let me just show you. These are all the parameters that are currently read from VIMS. So they arrive to the monitoring software as one message, 1 out of 3. So it always have headline of what message it is. So it's message 96, 97, or 98. You can see their brief description and the what is inside each message on the slide. So the tracker reads all these messages with certain periodicity and sends one message per point. As far as I remember, it's like around once per 5 minutes for each of the messages, which is why they don't go one upon the other, and they will not mix with each other. So they will arrive separately. So this is how it looks on the server side. As I mentioned, it shows the message type, where it shows the number of the message received, and then it shows the parameters according to the previous slide, to what we have read from the VIMS system. On the right part, you can see the list of equipment we have already connected and have proven to read already. So of course, this is not final list. This is only current list. We are planning to expand this list and connect to new Caterpillar models, and you can actually help us with that. So just pay attention to the new instructions arriving on the our website, and you'll see all the new information in time. Also, look at the notifications from our side. All the parameters, all the integrations that I covered are actually already or soon will be added to the list of instructions on our website, galileosky.com. Sorry. And you will be able to look at them, or you're already able to look at them at some of the integration instructions, and try yourself if you have the urge. So basically, about the integrations that we've included, that we've introduced lately, this is all. Quite a busy time it was. Many integrations were added. So where can you find information about new integrations apart from webinar, of course? The first one is that we usually place news articles on our about company news section, where we try to tell all the news, all the interesting new features that we've added, all new integrations, all new services that we introduced as soon as possible, and inform you, our clients, so you could be so you could know everything that you need. Apart from that, you can of course look it up in the user guide section and series programs in the history of the configurator. So it shows all new features added in the latest firmwares, and it shows new features concerning the configurator tool itself, what was added to the tool, what was added to the system. And the third place is when you access the download button when there is a new version, or if you access the current version information, it will also show you it will also show you the new data that was added. So you can see on this part that there are new firmwares, for example, and what new fixes, what new integrations were introduced in this one. And that's probably one of the most intriguing moments. As you know, we had a little contest, a little participation between our clients participating in the webinars. So we have looked through we had a lot of webinars this year, and many of you here that are today even online were very frequent guests on our webinars, and had good questions and had good participation table, but there were 3 prize places, and so let me just share with you who are the winners of this contest. So starting from the 3rd place, it's Plamen Valchev from Delotex Limited. He, as far as I can see, he was on 6 webinars so far, and if I'm not mistaken, he's okay. No, he's not online now. So if he wasn't on this webinar, 6 is still the number. We'll, of course, contact each of the participants if they are not online today to get information on how we better send them their prizes. So the prize for the 3rd place is a set of souvenirs from Russia, from Perm, from Galileosky to our client, to our guest. 2nd place is the company Integrated Security Solutions Limited. So there are 2 participants actually who participated in different webinars. Some of the webinars for participation is 8, if I'm not mistaken. So for the 2nd place, they get the new 7X tracker free shipped to them. So again, we will contact with them about the how we can do it and inform them about the victory if they are not online today. And the 1st place is company My Tracker. It's Serge Guerreri. For him, it will be the demonstration stand that will also show a bit later. I think that we will even have an article with the photos of the winners. So congratulations to the winners of the contest. Thank you very much all who participated, who was with us all this year and participated in our webinars, asked your best questions, had your opinion shared about the topics of the webinars. It is very important for us because all webinars that we hold, we do it for you, and we hope that you actually enjoy it and they are of good use for you. And now, since the webinar is the presentation part is over, let's look at the questions that we have already. So for current part, we have only 1 question from Serge, actually, and the winner, which is, can you remote cut SPM93? Please, Serge, could you be more specific? What do you imply about the remote cut? So you mean connect remotely to the SPM? If yes, then we support only wire connection, no wireless connection. There is no opportunity here to connect remotely. So the tracker itself should be connected locally. But of course, sending data to the server is done remotely. I hope that I answered your question. If not, please rephrase it so I could understand what is the question about. Okay, but how do you cut the line remotely? You mean, you can connect certain contacts to the output using relay systems, and of course you can disable the output, close the output, and thus cutting the power from certain part of the electric system. Yes, of course you can do that, but just be careful with that and use relay system, because direct correction and direct connection to the output of the tracker will most certainly kill the output if the current power going through the output is more than 80 milliamperes. So it's the only restriction that is used with our outputs. All the rest, of course, you can do that. And if you are to block different high-powered objects, use relays. It is not, well, we cannot send commands to the SPM. So currently we are just reading. No opportunity to send something to the electric meter. Yes, sure, you're welcome. So please, we have some time, around 5 minutes. If you have any questions, maybe not on the webinar topic, maybe any suggestions on what you would like to know next on our next webinars or next year, or any other questions to us as the technical support, please, you're welcome. We'll be happy to answer. Because if not, then again, so thank you very much for the participation in the contest, for going to all our webinars. I have any statistics, and it's quite impressive. By the way, I can see that the most popular webinar this year was about how to create a flexible fuel control system with Wielon, with Gurtam. So please, if you many of you are interested in something like that, in collaboration with different services, or in just working with fuel and some specific parts of the fuel control, please let us know. You can write here now, or you can write to our sales or support service. We'll pass this information to our marketing team, and we'll prepare some interesting webinar according to the topic that you mentioned. Could you make a webinar about how to send files remotely to the device? That's a good one. Thank you very much, Hassan. We'll pay attention to that. So we actually have a an instruction on our website, Galileosky.com, in the user guide section, which is called remote synchronization of files using WebDAV service. So you can look through it, but of course we can also make a small, well, not small, maybe a part of the webinar dedicated to this service, because it is quite interesting. And thank you very much for this suggestion. Okay, so can you send me the webinar support, please? So if you want to get the recording of this webinar, as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, you will be automatically sent the recording after the webinar finishes to the email that you entered when registered to this webinar. So of course you'll receive the recording, and you can rewatch it if you didn't participate from the beginning. Okay, so if no more questions there, then thank you very much for your sorry, there was a small malfunction. Again, if there are no questions, thank you very much for your participation. I hope that was an interesting webinar, and you learned new information about your trackers and what they can do. Please don't forget that we don't have only those integrations that we've covered, but we have a lot of different external devices integrated with our trackers in different ways. You can find full information always on our website, Galileosky.com, in the user guide section. I always repeat that, and it is always good to go there. Also, be sure to check our YouTube channel, Galileosky Worldwide, where we also post new videos and have a lot of videos already on the actual topics of how to work with Galileosky trackers. For example, recently we've placed there new videos about how to work with CAN bus of the vehicle using EasyLogic, and in our EasyLogic Creators channel. So thank you very much for participating. Thank you for being with us and for choosing us as your manufacturers. We'll continue giving you new information about our new integrations and new functions and new products. That was a very good year. Thank you very much. Have a nice year. Have a good New Year festivals, and see you next year. Bye-bye.